The voicemail icon blinked at me like a warning light on a dashboard. 3 missed calls from my mother in the past hour. A woman who hadn't bothered to call on my birthday for the past 15 years. I'm Harper, and I learned early that family ties can strangle you if you let them. My finger hovered over the delete button, muscle memory from years of erasing her sporadic attempts at contact. But something felt different this time. The timestamp showed 3 a.m., and Mother was nothing if not conscious of proper social hours. "Harper, baby, please!" Her voice crackled through the speaker, thick with something that might have been tears or cheap wine. "I know I have no right, but I need you. We're in trouble, real trouble this time." I let out a bitter laugh that echoed off the pristine walls of my office at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. Trouble. When wasn't she in trouble? "Dr. Matthews, your 4 o'clock is ready." My assistant's voice through the intercom provided a welcome interruption. "Give me 5 minutes," I replied, but kept listening to the message. "Greg and we might lose everything. Please call me back. I wouldn't ask if..." The message cut off there. My stepfather's name sent a familiar chill down my spine. Greg, the man who'd convinced my mother that sending me to live with grandmother would be best for everyone. Greg, who'd made room in their lives for their perfect daughter Megan, while I became the family ghost. My phone buzzed again. Oliver calling. I picked up immediately. "Let me guess, you got the bat signal too?" His voice carried its usual mix of concern and sarcasm. "How did you..." "Your mother cornered me outside my office this morning. Put on quite the performance about needing to reach you urgently. I told her I wasn't your secretary." I pressed my fingers against my temples. What did she want? Didn't stick around to find out. But Harper, she looked desperate. Not her usual calculated desperate, but actually scared. The image of my mother scared was almost impossible to conjure. I'd seen her calculated, manipulative, even cruel, but never afraid. "Whatever it is, it's not my problem," I said, more to convince myself than Oliver. "Agreed. But," he paused, "you're going to call her back, aren't you?" "I haven't decided." "Yes, you have. Because you're you, and you'll spend the next week wondering what would have happened if you didn't." I hated how well he knew me. "I have patience waiting." "Call me after?" "Always." I ended the call and stared at my mother's number. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head. "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, dear. It's about choosing peace over pain." But grandmother had died 6 months ago, leaving me her estate and a void that still felt raw. Before I could change my mind, I typed out a message. "Café Laurent, tomorrow, 8 a.m., one chance." The response came immediately. "Thank you, baby. We'll be there." "Will?" Of course Greg would come. He never let her face anything alone, especially not me. I looked at the family photo on my desk, taken at my medical school graduation. Grandmother stood proud beside me, while Oliver pulled a face in the background. No mother, no Greg, no half-sister. Just the family I'd chosen. My assistant knocked softly. "Dr. Matthews, your patient's parents are getting anxious." "Coming." I straightened my white coat and tucked my phone away. Tomorrow would come soon enough, but right now, I had real responsibilities. Saving children's lives. The kind of priority my mother never seemed to understand. As I walked to the consultation room, my grandmother's other favorite saying came to mind. "Be careful digging up the past, dear. You never know what else might crawl out of that hole." I had a feeling I was about to find out exactly what she meant. They were already waiting when I arrived at Café Laurent, seated at a corner table like vultures eyeing their next meal. Mother hadn't aged a day. Same perfectly coiffed blonde hair, same designer clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Greg looked older, grayer, but his eyes still held that calculating gleam I remembered from childhood. I ordered a black coffee and watched them squirm, let them wait. I'd waited 15 years for an explanation that never came. "Harper, darling!" Mother reached across the table, her manicured fingers stopping short of touching my hand when I pulled back. "You look successful." "Skip the small talk. Why am I here?" Greg cleared his throat, straightening his tie. "We've hit a rough patch, financially speaking. Some investments didn't pan out as expected. And this concerns me because..." Mother's lip trembled. A practiced move I'd seen her perfect over years of manipulating others. "We're about to lose the house. Everything. Your sister Megan..." "Half-sister," I corrected automatically. "Megan's still in college. We can't afford her tuition anymore." Mother's voice cracked. "We thought, given your position at the hospital, maybe you could..." "Help?" I let out a short laugh. "Like you helped me when I needed you?" Greg's jaw tightened. Now listen here. No, you listen. I leaned forward, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside. Where were you when I graduated high school, when I got into medical school, when grandmother died? We made mistakes, Mother whispered. We were young, trying to start a new life. I was 12. The words came out sharp enough to make her flinch. 12 years old when you shipped me off to grandmother's because your new husband couldn't handle having another man's child around. That's not fair, Greg interjected. We were struggling then too. Struggling? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. Here's you two in Paris last year, the Bahamas the year before, the new Mercedes in your driveway. I turned the screen toward them. Doesn't look like struggling to me. Mother's facade cracked slightly. How did you? Social media exists, Mother. Megan posts everything. Greg's hand closed over Mother's wrist, a gesture I remembered well. Control wrapped in concern. We're asking for a loan, not charity. We'll pay you back. Like you paid back grandmother? The words hung in the air between us. She told me everything before she died. How you borrowed money for your business ventures. How you never repaid a dime. Mother's face went pale. Edith promised she wouldn't. Grandmother promised a lot of things, like promising to love me when my own mother wouldn't. A waitress approached with my coffee. I waited until she left before continuing. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to stop calling. And you're going to figure out your own mess without dragging me into it. Please, Mother reached for me again. We have nowhere else to turn. That's funny. Neither did I. Greg's mask finally slipped, revealing the anger beneath. You ungrateful little... Careful, I cut him off. You're in public, and I'm not 12 anymore. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee cooling on the table. Oh, and about Megan's tuition? Tell her to call me directly. I'll help her, but not through you. You can't do this, Greg sputtered. We're family. No, I corrected him. You're the people who threw away family for convenience. I'm just returning the favor. I walked away, my heels clicking against the floor, each step lighter than the last. Behind me, I heard Mother's muffled sobs. Real ones this time, not the practiced kind. Outside, I texted Oliver. It's done. His reply came instantly. You okay? I looked back through the cafe window. Mother was dabbing her eyes while Greg talked intensely, his hands gesturing in that way they did when he was plotting something. Some things never change. No, I typed back. But I will be. What I didn't tell Oliver was the slight tremor in my hands, or how my heart raced with equal parts triumph and terror. I just declared war on the people who'd mastered the art of emotional warfare, and something told me they weren't done fighting back. Oliver's office always smelled like old leather and coffee, but today there was something else. Tension. He paced behind his desk, legal documents scattered across its surface, while I sat frozen in his visitor's chair. You need to see this! He slid a folder toward me. Remember that medical supply company Greg kept pushing the hospital to contract with last year? I nodded, remembering Greg's persistent attempts to get me to put in a good word with the board. It's a shell company. One of many. Oliver tapped the papers. They've been inflating prices, kickbacks, the whole 9 yards. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a connection to several private practices that went bankrupt after dealing with them. My stomach lurched. Grandmother's medical center? Closed 6 months before she died. Oliver's voice softened. Harper, I don't think that was a coincidence. The room tilted slightly. Grandmother had been devastated when her small medical center failed, but she'd never blamed anyone. Just bad timing, she'd said. These things happen. My phone buzzed. A text from Megan. Dad's acting weird. Shredding papers all morning. Mom won't stop crying. They're getting desperate, I said, showing Oliver the message. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. He leaned forward. But Harper, if we pursue this, there's no going back. Greg has connections and he fights dirty. So do I. I stood up, gathering the documents. I need copies of everything. Already done. He handed me a USB drive. But there's something else you should know. I did some digging into your father's old insurance policy. A knock at the door interrupted us. Oliver's secretary poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone insisting on seeing you, Dr. Matthews. Says it's about your grandmother's estate. Greg stood in the reception area, his usual polished appearance slightly disheveled. When he saw me, his face twisted into something between a smile and a snarl. Quite the coincidence finding you here, he said, though we both knew it wasn't. We need to talk. I think we're done talking. Really? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Even about how your grandmother's medical center really went under? Or why your mother signed away your trust fund when you were 13? My heart stopped. What trust fund? The one your father left you. Substantial amount, actually. His smile widened. Your mother was so cooperative back then. Anything to keep certain secrets buried. You're lying. Am I? Ask Oliver. He's been looking into it, hasn't he? Greg glanced at Oliver's office door. Why do you think I'm here? Oliver appeared behind me. I think you should leave, Greg. Of course. Greg straightened his jacket. But Harper, remember, you start digging up the past, you might not like what you find. Some questions are better left unanswered. After he left, I turned to Oliver. Tell me everything. I was about to. He ran a hand through his hair. Your father left you a trust fund worth almost $2 million. Your mother was the trustee until you turned 25. Was? The account was emptied 12 years ago, every penny. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. She stole my inheritance? Technically, she had legal authority. But the timing? Oliver hesitated. It was right after your grandmother's medical center started having problems. Everything clicked into place. The sudden financial troubles, being sent away, grandmother's business failing. It hadn't been bad luck. It had been calculated destruction. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Megan. Found something in Dad's office. Need to meet. Alone. I showed Oliver the message. It's probably a trap, he warned. Probably. I grabbed my coat. But I need to know the truth. All of it. Harper! Oliver caught my arm. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Greg didn't come here to threaten you. He came to warn you off. That means you're close to something he doesn't want you to find. I thought of grandmother, working until the end to keep her medical center afloat, never knowing she'd been betrayed by her own daughter. Good, I said, heading for the door. Because I'm done running from their secrets. It's time they ran from mine. Behind me, Oliver sighed. Just remember, revenge is a marathon, not a sprint. But I was already gone, racing toward a truth that had been buried for 15 years. And this time, I wouldn't stop until I uncovered every last bit of it. The box of grandmother's papers sat untouched on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I found the courage to open it. Each photograph, each document felt like handling live ammunition. Dangerous, volatile, ready to explode my carefully constructed world. My hands trembled as I discovered a letter dated just weeks before her death. The handwriting was shaky, nothing like her usual precise script. The doorbell rang. Oliver stood outside, holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing the expression he reserved for delivering bad news. You need to see this. He pulled out his tablet, pulling up financial records. Greg's been busy. 3 more medical centers, all driven into bankruptcy using the same pattern. I pushed aside the letter. How many lives has he ruined? That's not the worst part. Oliver hesitated. One of the doctors committed suicide after losing everything, left behind 2 kids. The room spun slightly. I gripped the counter to steady myself. Harper? Oliver's voice seemed distant. Maybe we should stop. This is getting dangerous. No, I picked up grandmother's letter. Listen to this. My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, I failed to make things right. The truth about your father's death. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Back off, or the hospital board learns about your grandmother's medical negligence case. Oliver read the message over my shoulder. What negligence case? There wasn't one. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. She would have told me, unless she was protecting you. Oliver started typing on his tablet. Give me a minute. While he searched, I continued reading the letter, my heart pounding harder with each word. Greg and your mother didn't just take your inheritance, they destroyed evidence. Your father's death wasn't an accident. The letter ended there, the rest torn away. Found it, Oliver announced grimly. There was a sealed case, settled out of court 15 years ago, right before your grandmother's medical center collapsed. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. They blackmailed her. Harper! They blackmailed her into silence, then destroyed her anyway. My voice sounded strange, distant. And now they're trying the same thing with me. Another text buzzed. Final warning! Walk away! I showed Oliver the message. They're scared. They should be. He looked up from his tablet. Because I just found something else. Your father's autopsy report was altered. The room tilted dangerously. I sat down before my legs could give out. I need air, I managed to say, heading for the balcony. The night air hit my face, but it didn't help. Memories flooded back. Dad's smile, his promises to take me fishing that weekend, the police at our door. Oliver followed me out. We should call the police. With what evidence? I turned to face him. Everything's buried under 15 years of lies. Then we dig deeper. He touched my shoulder. But Harper, revenge won't bring them back. This isn't about revenge anymore. I pulled away. It's about justice. For Dad, for Grandmother, for that doctor's children. My phone buzzed again. Megan this time. Found Dad's hidden safe. There are files about Uncle James's death. Dad's furious someone accessed them. What's going on? Uncle James, Dad's brother. Another accident 6 months after Dad died. Oliver. My voice shook. How many accidents can one family have? He didn't answer, but his expression said enough. I walked back inside, picked up Grandmother's torn letter, and placed it carefully in my safe. Then I texted Megan back. Keep the files safe. Don't trust anyone. What's your plan? Oliver asked quietly. I looked at the family photo on my wall. Dad, Uncle James, me at 6 years old, all smiling, all unaware of what was coming. They think they can bury the truth under threats and blackmail. I grabbed my car keys. But they forgot something important. What's that? I'm a surgeon. I know exactly where to cut to expose what's hidden underneath. Oliver nodded slowly. Just remember, some surgeries leave scars that never heal. Good, I said, heading for the door. Because this time, I want the scars to show. I met Megan at midnight in the hospital parking garage, her hands clutching a manila envelope like it might explode. She'd lost weight since I'd last seen her, dark circles under her eyes making her look older than 22. Did anyone follow you? Her voice echoed against concrete walls. No, but... I stopped as she thrust the envelope at me. Dad's going to notice these are missing soon. Her hands shook. There's more. So much more, Harper. Things I never knew about our family. Inside the envelope, photographs spilled out. Dad and Uncle James at a construction site, arguing with Greg. Financial documents. A handwritten letter from Dad dated the day before his accident. Mom's been drinking again, Megan continued, pacing. Last night, she kept saying she was sorry that she never meant for anyone to die. The word die hung between us like poison gas. What exactly did she say? That's just it. Greg came home and shut her up before she could tell me more. Megan stopped pacing. Harper, I think they killed them. Dad and Uncle James. My phone buzzed. Oliver. Greg just left the hospital board meeting. He's heading your way. We need to go. I grabbed Megan's arm, but she pulled away. There's something else. She reached into her pocket, hands trembling worse now. I found this in Mom's jewelry box. A small key glinted under fluorescent lights. It opens a safety deposit box, Megan whispered. Box 247 at First National. Mom doesn't know I have it. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Megan's eyes widened with panic. Go! I pushed her toward the exit. Text me when you're safe. Harper, go! She disappeared just as Greg emerged from the stairwell, his face twisted with rage. Family meeting in the dark? He approached slowly, like a predator. How touching. Stay away from my sister. Your sister? He laughed. Now you want to claim her? After all these years of refusing to acknowledge her existence? I know what you did. I held up the envelope. To Dad, to Uncle James, to Grandmother. You know nothing. He moved closer. You're just like your father, too smart for your own good, always digging where you shouldn't. Did you push him, or did you have someone else do it? His smile faltered slightly. Accidents happen in construction sites. Tragic, but common. And Uncle James's car crash 6 months later, another accident? You should be careful, Harper. His voice dropped dangerously low. Accidents can run in families. My phone buzzed again. Oliver. Security cameras disabled. You have 3 minutes. Is that what you told Dad? I stepped closer, matching his predatory stance. Before you arranged his accident? Your father was going to destroy everything! Anger cracked through his calm facade. He and his self-righteous brother threatening to expose... He caught himself, but it was too late. Expose what? I pressed. The fraud? The embezzlement? Or something worse? Greg's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. Listen carefully. You're going to give me those files, and that key your sister stole. I yanked free. Or what? Another accident? Don't test me, Harper. I protected your mother once. I won't do it again. The pieces clicked together with devastating clarity. Protected her? From what? His smile returned, cruel and knowing. Ask her who really killed your father. Security lights flickered back on. Greg stepped back, straightening his tie. 24 hours, he said quietly. Return everything or your mother faces the consequences of her actions. All of them. He walked away, leaving me frozen between the weight of truth and the burden of choice. My phone buzzed one last time. Megan. Mom's crying. Says she needs to tell me something about the night Dad died. I looked at the key in my palm, then at the envelope of secrets that had cost 2 men their lives. 24 hours to choose between justice and protecting what little family I had left. The garage felt colder suddenly, echoing with the ghosts of choices made 15 years ago, and the ones I would have to make now. Some truths, I realized, don't set you free. They just trap you in a different kind of prison. The safety deposit box key felt impossibly heavy in my hand as I stood in First National's vault room. Behind me, Oliver kept watch while Megan paced nervously. 3 minutes until the bank closes, Oliver warned. Box 247 opened with a soft click. Inside lay a single USB drive and a yellowed envelope addressed to me in my father's handwriting. The vault door burst open. Greg stood there, flanked by 2 security guards. I warned you, he said softly. Now everyone pays. Mother appeared behind him, her face ashen. Harper, please! You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. I held up the USB drive. Dad's final audit report. The one that got him killed. Greg's mask slipped for just a moment. Officers, arrest them for theft. Wait, Mother stepped forward. There's something you all need to know. Diane. Greg's voice carried a warning. I can't. Mother's hands trembled. I can't keep lying. Mom? Megan moved closer to me. I killed him. Mother's words fell like stones in water. Your father. I pushed him. The vault seemed to shrink, the air thinning. Greg told me he'd take you away if I didn't. She continued, tears streaming. Said he'd make sure I never saw you again. So you murdered my father instead? My voice sounded strange, distant. He was going to expose everything. The fraud, the embezzlement. Greg said we'd lose everything. She reached for me. I did it to protect you. I stepped back. You sent me away anyway. Because I couldn't bear to look at you. She broke down. Every time I saw your face, I saw him. What I'd done. Greg moved suddenly, grabbing the USB drive from my hand. Enough confessions. Officers, these 3 broke into a private safety deposit box. Using my key, Mother interrupted. I gave it to Harper. Greg's face contorted. You stupid. It's over, Greg. Oliver held up his phone. Live streaming to the hospital board and police department. Been recording since we walked in. The color drained from Greg's face. You forced my mother to kill my father. I stepped toward him. Then blackmailed her with it for 15 years. Used it to steal my inheritance, destroy grandmother's medical center, and ruin countless lives. You can't prove. The USB drive's contents are already uploaded to the cloud. Oliver smiled grimly. Along with your confession in the parking garage last night. The security guards exchanged glances, then moved toward Greg and Mother. Harper! Mother reached for me one last time. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back Dad, or Uncle James, or Grandmother. I turned away. It doesn't give me back the years I spent thinking I wasn't worth loving. Please, she sobbed as the guards approached. You chose him over me once. I met her eyes. Now I'm choosing justice over you. The next hour passed in a blur of police statements and questions. I watched them lead Mother and Greg away in handcuffs, feeling nothing but a hollow emptiness where revenge should have tasted sweet. Later in the parking lot, Megan touched my arm. What happens now? I looked at my father's unopened letter, still clutched in my hand. Now we rebuild. Without them. I knew, she whispered. Deep down, I always knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to see it. Neither did I. I hugged her, the first time I'd ever done so. But we don't have to carry their sins anymore. Oliver approached with his phone. Hospital board wants to meet, and the police have more questions. I nodded, feeling the weight of victory pressing down like lead. You won, Oliver said quietly. But standing there, watching my sister cry while my parents faced justice, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like surviving a war where everyone lost something. I finally opened my father's letter, reading his last words by the harsh glare of parking lot lights. My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, remember, the truth will set you free, but first it will break your heart. He was right. My heart was broken, but for the first time in 15 years I could finally breathe. Sometimes justice feels like drowning before you learn to swim again. The prison visiting room smelled of cheap disinfectant and despair. Greg sat across from me, orange jumpsuit clashing with his usual polished demeanor. but his smile remained razor sharp. Come to gloat, he leaned forward. Or did you finally figure it out? I placed grandmother's medical ledger on the table between us. You didn't just steal my inheritance. You stole from every patient at her clinic. Clever girl, he glanced at the ledger. But you're still missing the bigger picture. The insurance policies. I watched his smile falter. Dad's, Uncle James's, grandmother's, all paid to offshore accounts, mother's signature on everything. Your mother was always cooperative. His eyes glittered. But she wasn't the mastermind. Ask her about the night before your father's accident, about the phone call she made. The door opened. Mother shuffled in, handcuffed, looking decades older than her 50 years. No. Greg's smile vanished. This isn't part of our deal. There are no more deals. I stood as Mother sat. Tell her, Greg. Tell her about the other families you destroyed. The other children who lost their parents to convenient accidents. Mother's hands trembled. What is she talking about? He's been running this scheme for 20 years. I pulled out more documents. Find vulnerable families, marry into money, orchestrate accidents, collect insurance. Dad wasn't your first victim, Mother. He was just the most profitable. Greg? Mother's voice cracked. Diane, don't listen to her. 7 families, I continued. 7 accidents. 7 insurance payouts. And you, Mother, were just his latest puppet. I loved you, Mother whispered to Greg. His mask finally cracked. Love? You were convenient. Grieving widow, substantial insurance payout, naive enough to believe anything, including that I killed Dad. Mother's eyes hardened. That's what you told me, that I pushed him during our fight. The air seemed to freeze. You were drunk that night, Greg said carefully. You don't remember. I remember everything. Mother's voice gained strength. I remember calling Dad to warn him about you. I remember passing out after you drugged my wine. I remember you leaving at midnight. And I remember you coming back covered in concrete dust. Greg lunged across the table, but the guards were faster. As they restrained him, a paper fell from his pocket. A letter in Mother's handwriting. Your confession, he spat. Insurance against exactly this moment. I picked up the letter. You mean this confession? The one where the signature doesn't match Mother's handwriting from 15 years ago? His face went slack. Grandmother taught me well. I smiled grimly. She kept every birthday card Mother ever sent. The handwriting analysis was illuminating. You can't prove. The FBI already has everything. I stood. Including testimony from your previous victims' families. Did you really think I'd come here without making sure justice was certain? Harper. Mother reached for my hand. I'm so sorry. I should have. Save it. I pulled away. You may not have killed Dad, but you chose this man over me. Over and over. What happens now? She whispered. Now? I gathered the documents. Now, Greg faces multiple murder charges, and you face accessory charges for helping him destroy evidence and steal my inheritance. You'd send your own mother to prison? You stopped being my mother the day you sent me away. I turned to leave. Grandmother taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, and I choose justice. Greg's laughter followed me out. Just like your father, so righteous, so certain. He had that same look right before. The door slammed shut, cutting off his words. Outside, Oliver and Megan waited. It's done, I said. You okay? Oliver touched my shoulder. I looked at the prison walls, thinking of the 2 people inside who'd stolen so much from me. But they hadn't stolen everything. I still had my father's courage, my grandmother's wisdom, and now, unexpectedly, a sister's love. No, I answered honestly. But I will be. Megan squeezed my hand. We will be. Sometimes justice feels like letting go of the past to save your future, and sometimes family is what you build from the ashes of what burns. The autumn wind scattered leaves across grandmother's headstone as I knelt to clear them away. Behind me, workers installed the new sign. Edith Matthews Memorial Medical Center. She would have loved this, Megan said, placing fresh flowers beside mine. Using Greg's seized assets to rebuild what he destroyed. I traced grandmother's name with my finger. She taught me that healing isn't just about medicine. Sometimes it's about making things right. The sound of approaching footsteps made me turn. Oliver held up an envelope. The last of the victim compensation paperwork. 7 families, all receiving restitution. And Mother's plea deal? 5 years with mandatory counseling. He hesitated. She asked to see you. I know. I stood. brushing dirt from my knees. She writes every week. Are you ever going to answer? The question hung in the air as I watched the medical center come back to life. Where Greg had once destroyed dreams, new hope would grow. Where Mother had chosen silence, truth would now speak. Dr. Matthews? A nurse called from the entrance. Your first patient is ready. Coming! I turned to Megan. Ready for your first day as administrative director? She straightened her blazer, looking so much like Mother, but somehow entirely her own person. Terrified, but Grandmother's letters said she was terrified too when she first opened this place. Letters? Megan pulled out a worn envelope. Found them in Mother's things while cleaning out the house. There's one for you. My hands trembled as I opened it, recognizing Grandmother's precise handwriting. My dearest Harper, by the time you read this, you'll have faced your demons and found your strength. But remember, revenge is like medicine. The right dose heals, too much poisons. Your father understood this. So did I. Now it's your turn to decide. Will you let the past define you, or refine you? All my love, Grandmother. A child's laughter echoed from the clinic's waiting room, pulling me back to the present. Through the windows, I could see families waiting. Not unlike those Greg had destroyed, but now with a chance for healing instead of harm. The board approved your proposal, Oliver said. Free treatment for victims of domestic abuse and their children. Good. I folded Grandmother's letter carefully. That's what this place was always meant to be. A sanctuary. Harper, Megan touched my arm. Mother's release date is in 4 years. When that day comes, we'll deal with it then. I cut her off gently. Right now we have patients waiting. As we walked toward the clinic, I spotted a familiar face in the waiting room. The daughter of one of Greg's victims, now grown, holding her own child. She caught my eye and nodded slightly. Understanding passed between us. Some wounds never fully heal, but they can become bridges to help others cross their own troubled waters. Dr. Matthews? The nurse held out a patient file. Your first case, 7-year-old girl, father recently deceased, mother struggling. I took the file, remembering being that lost child, thinking I was alone, but Grandmother had shown me another way. Now it was my turn. Tell them I'm coming, I said, straightening my white coat. And Megan, pull the funding paperwork. This family won't be paying. Oliver smiled. Your father would be proud. So would Grandmother, Megan added. They were both wrong. This wasn't about making anyone proud anymore. It was about breaking cycles, healing wounds, and building something new from the ashes of the past. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows behind us but lighting the path ahead. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something they can never tear down again. I pushed open the exam room door, ready to help another family find their way through the darkness. Some legacies are written in blood, others in hope. I chose hope.